Well, hello and welcome, Frontline City. It is great to see you this Sunday afternoon. My name is Matt Edmondson, and I get to lead this amazing online church. That's right, you've heard me right. This is an online church, so welcome to it. Why not? Why not? Now, it doesn't matter where you are. Doesn't matter what part of the world you're in. It doesn't even matter how we meet. Like doing it digitally. It just matters that we get together. So it's really great that you're here with us. And I know many of you watching this are new to Frontline City. So just to give you a bit of context, we are part of Frontline Church. We're based here in Liverpool in the UK, and we basically just want to help inspire you about Jesus and how amazing he is. So please feel at home with us. Now, if you're watching this live, you can join in using the comments below the live stream. That's right. Let me press, where's my button here? That one. There we go. You can join in the live stream just with the comments. Say hi, let us know what you think, ask your questions, get involved in the debate. All I ask is that you do it respectfully. And also on the, oh, it's not on the screen, is it? Let me go back to that one. There we go. There, it's on the screen now. Also on the screen, you can see the WhatsApp number. So why not send in a photo of where you're coming from or where you're watching the live stream. Now, if you're watching this on the replay of the live stream or on YouTube, which I know many people do, you can also comment in the comments, if that makes sense, on the Facebook or the YouTube video. We do monitor them. So again, it'd be great to hear from you. Like I say, we've got the WhatsApp. You can message us on the number shown on the screen. And we especially love it when you do actually send us your photos. So be warned, I may show them on the stream. Like Matt Crew from Liverpool has sent in this picture here. There we go. Masked up Matt. If I put him there, we look like twins, don't we? So this is Matt on a walk just before City, sent in this photo. So why not send us a photo of where you are right now and how you're watching the stream? So, you know me, any excuse for a selfie, so why not? As well as comment, give us a like if you're happy to do so. Why not share the live stream out on Facebook? Let everybody know that you're watching. That would be great because it's always great to reach new folks around the world. So, coming up in today's service, we have got some great stuff coming up. So let me tell you what's going on. After I finish my little welcome spiel, we are going to jump straight in today's talk, which is yours truly, chatting away. You will notice that the talk is in quite a similar environment to this. There may be one or two items behind me currently, which won't be there during the talk, the sermon part. That's okay. Spot the difference. You know, recorded at different times. But we're going to look at this whole idea of transformational leadership. Okay, 4 ideas to help you be a better leader. We are carrying on our journey in Mark's Gospel, Mark chapter 11. So we are going to be talking about that. After the talk, I'll be back for a brief moment and I'll introduce the worship section, which I'll talk more about later. And then we're going to have all our notices. We're going to have the catch-up video, which is great, with the aim of finishing around 5 o'clock. So I know for those of you who would like to watch the Liverpool-Chelsea match, we will definitely get to see at least the second half. Just to be, you know, for the event of full disclosure, I might have, you know, a little live stream going on here to keep me up to date with the scores as we're going along. One of the benefits of pre-recording the talk. And so for those of you who would like to meet up after the talk, we're going to have a little Zoom session. Sharon is going to handle that. She's going to lead that. And I will put a link in the comments. In fact, let me do that now. To Zoom later. So that should appear in the Facebook comments. You can click that link. About 5 minutes after the live stream has ended, we will be in that Zoom room. If you would like to join us, it will be great to see you there. Okay, now, I see you've been busy in the comments. Let's see what we've going on. Matt put here, good afternoon, former mop head Matt Edmondson. Matt, as always, complimentary. Yes, that's right. I used to have, until Wednesday this week, I used to have quite long hair. as a matter of fact. And finally managed to get cooked. Ben is now back at work. So if you are a Ben Huthwaite customer, then he is now back at work. You can book with him, which is great. If you're not a Ben Huthwaite customer and you're in Liverpool, definitely try him out. So he's great. What else have we got going on? Matt says, good afternoon to all those Edmondsons in the kitchen. Yes, there's a fair few of them. Techno music, awesome as always. Thank you very much, sir. What have we got here? Sharon says good afternoon, and also Josh says good afternoon, live from St Andrews. Yes, from Scotland. And what else have we got going on? Hope Liverpool lose. No, we don't, Matt. We are going to pray that Liverpool win and beat Chelsea, obviously, because being in Liverpool, we are Liverpool fans. So, yes, please, Lord. Okay, so we will keep you up to date. So how's your week been? How are you getting on? Let us know in the comments. Be good to hear from you. Like I said, you can WhatsApp your comments. You can put them in the Facebook live stream. Let us know what's going on, where you're watching this from, and send us your photos. And I am going to also... I've got some photos coming for you later. Oh, yes, some very interesting ones. Anyway, we'll show those in a bit. Let me introduce to you the talk for today. Now, we are going to be talking about leadership, transformational leadership, and we're carrying on our journey in Mark's Gospel, and it's going to be fun. Now, if this is your first time with us, then you may or may not be aware that we have been working our way through Mark's Gospel. Okay, I'm going to explain more about this in the talk, so I don't want to repeat myself. But we have been working our way through Mark's Gospel, just having a look at the life of Jesus and seeing what he got up to. And we come to a really interesting part in the story. I say that every week. They're all really interesting parts. We come up to this really interesting part in the story, which has led me to create this talk called Transformational Leadership. So even if you don't think you're a leader, listen up, especially right at the start. So we are going to get straight into this. Without further ado, here's me, spot the difference. Okay, we are going to talk about leadership. Now you can tell from the title, we're going to jazz it up and we're going to talk about transformational leadership. Okay, it's a little bit posh, I get that. And you may be thinking right here at the start, well, hang on, Matt, I'm not a leader. But if you are thinking that, then I would say, with all due respect, of course, you are wrong. I think you are a leader. I think that we are all leaders. Now, you don't have to be a CEO. You don't have to run your own company, pastor a church, or head up an elite force of crack commandos to be a leader. No. Saying that, I appreciate the irony because I am actually a CEO. I run my own company. I pastor this online church. I head up an elite force, the amazing team that work with me. But you know what? For you, you're going to have a different place to lead. It's not going to look like mine. It's going to look like your place. You don't have to be a certain age. You don't have to be a certain gender or a certain race to be a leader. You are a leader right where you are in life. And the world needs you to step up and lead. No pressure, but we are all depending on you to do just that, to lead. Now, I appreciate that's a bit of a head spinner already. So let's run the intro and let that sink in. Okay, so recently I have been thinking a lot about how any change has to start with leadership. And this is the idea of transformational leadership. Leadership that brings about change, good change, transformational change, right? So what do you think about when you hear this phrase, transformational leadership? And more importantly, who do you think about? Now, for me, I immediately think about Jesus. Now, that should come as no surprise, given that this is an online church, right? Maybe you'd be a little bit surprised if I didn't. But even if you are not a Christian, you have to admit, right, that Jesus started and led a movement that utterly transformed the world like nobody else has ever done in history. So today, we're going to get into one of Jesus's more unorthodox leadership lessons, that's for sure. But before we jump into this, let me tell you that I do personally feel a little bit challenged over this idea of leadership. It's been something that has been mulling in my life for a little while. So over the coming live streams, we will draw out more and more principles of leadership and talk about what we can learn from them, what we see in the Bible, what we see in the Gospels, right? And we will add them to a playlist. So that library of content is going to build up. But more on that as we do it, we'll keep you updated. Okay, so that's just where I'm at. Now, let's jump into this. So to give you a bit of context, if this is your first time with us, firstly, welcome. It's great that you're here. We are working our way through Mark's Gospel, which is a book in the Bible that chronicles the life of Jesus. Now, the story is in this phase. We've sort of come to this point in the story where we've reached this phase called Passion Week. It's the week leading up to Jesus's crucifixion, where the whole chapter of this part of Jesus's life kind of culminates, right? It's this big crescendo, which we call the crucifixion of Christ. And, no spoilers, but, some interesting stuff happens afterwards. So let's read the next part of the story. And we're in Mark chapter 11, and we're going to read just 3 verses, 12, 13 and 14 today. So now the next day when they had come out from Bethany, Jesus, was hungry. And seeing afar a fig tree having leaves, he went to see if perhaps he could find something on it. Now when he came to it, he found nothing but leaves, for it was not the season for figs. So in response, Jesus said to it, "Let no one eat fruit from you ever again." And his disciples heard it. Now, at first glance, you may think, this is a short part of the story. What is happening, right? If you're like me, I'm kind of thinking, I'm not really sure what's going on here. It might even feel a little bit odd as Jesus is talking to a tree, right? But as we get into this, we're going to see 4 ideas to help you and me be a better leader from Jesus, right? They're going to help us lead at work. They're going to help us lead in our families, help us lead in church, help us lead wherever we are in life. Okay, so those 4 ideas. So let's jump straight into idea number 1, how to lead. Idea number 1. I'm not going to do that again, don't panic. Number 1, find your central perks. Now, in the TV show Friends, which is still one of the most popular TV shows 25 years later, we would often find our protagonists in the coffee shop called Central Perks. Now here they would be friends, they would debrief, be encouraged, challenge, laugh, cry, and just do life together. And that's what Central Perks is. It's a place where we recharge with people. You could, in fact, if you were so inclined, argue that there were 2 of these places in the TV show Friends. The first being the coffee shop, Central Perks, but the second is, can you guess? Monica's apartment. The same thing would happen in her apartment. They would just be friends. They would, it's a place where they would sort of debrief and they would catch up and they could be supported and just be themselves, right? I don't see that much in coffee shops these days. If I'm honest, I see people with headphones with their faces stuck in their laptop. So that aside, what has this got to do with our passage? Well, let's read the first part of it. It says that the next day when they had come out from Bethany. Now, Bethany is a really interesting place when you dig into it, when you sort of understand who lived there and what Jesus did there. Quite a fascinating little place in our history. It's a village. Bethany is a village about 2 miles east of Jerusalem. It's in a place called Judea. And it was the hometown of a family that were good friends with Jesus. They were called Mary, Martha, and Lazarus. And in fact, it was in Bethany that Jesus raised Lazarus from the dead earlier in the gospel story. But it is also the place where Jesus stayed overnight during this Passion Week, which is the final week of Jesus's earthly ministry. We know at the end of this week, as I said earlier, it's sort of culminating to this point in the crucifixion. And so we know it's a tough week. We know it's a hard week, but Jesus didn't stay in Jerusalem itself. He actually every day would make the journey back to Bethany. It was a familiar place. It was a place where friends were. And that was what was needed for him, right? It's going to be, like I said, a hard week, and he needs people around him. And this is important. So let me ask you a question. Where is your central perks? Where is your Bethany? Where do you go and hang out with people that care for you? Now, honestly, for me, this is one of the reasons I find church so super refreshing and recharging. I just get to be with people that care for me. Church is one of my central perks. And that can, church can be digital like this, but it's also physical as well. So, just a little insight here. Do stay posted. We do have something to share in the coming weeks that I am super excited about with this physical aspect of church, but more on that later. Now, another central perks for me is also my home. And I like my home to be a busy place. I like the fact that people come around, just hang out, and drink my coffee, usually. I used to, before COVID, I used to travel a fair bit before the lockdown. And wherever I travel, I always prefer to stay with friends than stay in a hotel. I mean, it's cheaper for one, but even at the end of a busy day, there's something quite refreshing about coming back to a place where I know the people, where I can just kick back and be with them. So where is your central perks? Where is your Bethany? I think to be an effective leader, we need a central perks, a Bethany, a place with friends that can support us. But why is that? Well, let's take this idea of transformational leadership. To bring about transformation and change, it helps if we, as the leader, have something to give. It's hard to lead on empty. And it's almost impossible to bring about transformation on empty. So we need to be recharged and refreshed. We need to give, and we need to have something to give, right? That's one of the keys, one of the key reasons that we have our central perks is it recharges us. Now, if you're start that sentence again. If you're living by yourself, I think this idea is especially important because it is easy to go weeks without really engaging with people, as COVID has shown us. So find your central perks wherever you go, even if, like for Jesus in this part of the story, it was just for a short time. It was just for a few nights, a week. Find your central perks. Okay, so that is number one. Idea number two, how to lead. Idea number two. Oh, I said I wouldn't do that. Sorry, my bad. Remember this. It is okay that you are human. Let me say that again. It is okay that you are human. Now, this is an interesting idea for me. One of the understated parts of today's passage, but it is absolutely critical to understanding Jesus and who he is. That's not easy to say. Who he is, that's better, is this, right? Let's read it. So now the next day when they had come out from Bethany, look at this, he was hungry. Now, when you read it, you can just pass this idea by. But Jesus was hungry. I mean, think about that for a moment. You see, a central tenet to the Christian faith is this idea that Jesus was 100% God, but he was also 100% man. And it's this fascinating tension that we hold, the humanity of Christ and the divinity of Christ. And we see that here. We see he was human. We know that because he was hungry, right? It's there. So this leads me, if your brain works like mine, to ask a number of questions. Number one, why does it matter that Jesus was human and divine? Number two, what has this got to do with transformational leadership? So let's deal with the first question, as I think this will help us answer the second, if I'm honest with you. So why does it matter that Jesus was human and divine? So before we start, let me give the usual clause stating that there is no way I can do this question justice in just a couple of minutes. I'm not that good, right? So I'm going to focus on one idea of the humanity of Jesus that I think is going to help us, right? So let's take this understanding that Jesus was the Son of God, or Jesus is the Son of God. I am convinced of that. But I'm also convinced he was not immune to things like splinters. I'm sure, like me, he gets plenty of them. I seem to spend most of my weekend pulling splinters out of my hand. Just saying, right? He would have got plenty as a carpenter. His muscles would have got sore. He knew what it was to be tired. I'm sure that he had to contend with sunburn. And this leads us all into the idea that his life would be lived as a man with all the struggles and all the temptations that we all have. And that's the critical point of his humanity, because there is grace in that, right? So if we think about our own leadership, right, as we lead, we are going to fail. We are going to do stupid things. It's part of what it means to be human. You can't really escape it, right? Leaders are not some kind of breed of super people. We will mess it up, make crazy decisions. We will be selfish. We will say the wrong thing. We're going to offend people. We are going to lose important friendships. We're going to forget important events, right? I've done all of them, but I'm only human. So what has this, question number 2, got to do with transformational leadership? Now, the good news is that I don't have to try and be someone or something that I'm not. I don't have to go and get a qualification or some special status in life. No, I just need to serve people, because that's what transformational leadership is all about, right? And the good news is when I do mess up, there is grace there. There is forgiveness there. There is the strength of God to help me lead and guide me. So hopefully tomorrow is more righteous than yesterday, right? God made provision for my humanity by becoming human. It's the most extraordinary truth of Christianity. The Bible, when talking about Jesus, says this in Hebrews chapter 4, verses 15 to 16, says, Jesus is not out of touch with our reality. He has been through weakness and testing, experienced it all but the sin. So let's walk right up to him and get what he is so ready to give. Let's take the mercy and accept the help. That's awesome. I love that translation, the Message translation of that verse. You see, we were never meant to do this without him. We were never meant to do this alone. We fundamentally cannot do this without his mercy and without his help, right? But that's the gospel. That's the good news for you and me today. He extends his mercy and his help. He knows about our humanity. He knows we will mess it up, say the wrong thing, do the wrong thing, and act the wrong way. But incredibly, in spite of my humanity, I can walk right up to him and get what he is so ready to give. It is phenomenal. So let's just do that, right? Let's take the mercy and accept the help that he gives. So this is the second idea that leads to transformational leadership. Okay, so number 1, where's your Bethany or your Central Perks? Number 2, we're human, and it's okay because God has made provision for that, and we can accept his help to help us lead. Awesome. Okay, so how to lead idea number 3. Let's jump into this. Research. Now, you know what? I talk all the time about research to those looking to start a business. It's the first step of everything that we teach and bring to people. But it is the one thing that people don't spend the time really doing. And you know what? It's one of the key reasons that businesses fail, in my opinion. Okay. Now, this idea of research doesn't just apply to starting your own business. It applies literally all over the place, including prepping for this message. So let me show you what I mean. I went to Google and typed in the phrase, "Why did Jesus?" And then Google comes up with some suggestions, right? starting with the most common search. So what would you think the most common questions are that start with this question? So the first question is, why did Jesus die? Okay, I could have predicted that. That is a fairly reasonable question. Why did he die? What I wouldn't have predicted, though, when I was doing this, is the second most popular question that came up. Why did Jesus curse the fig tree? It's a more popular question than why did Jesus speak in parables, for example. In other words, this seemingly small but slightly odd few verses in the Bible that we've just read has resulted in a lot of searches for people online. They have a lot of questions about it, and I would never have known that without spending the time to do the research. So why is research important? Well, simply this: it leads to understanding. And understanding is essential for transformational leadership. It really is as simple as that. This stuff is not rocket science, which is why I like it so much. I get it. I understand it. So before we move on, let's have a look at this question. Why did Jesus curse the fig tree, given that it is so popular on Google? Was Jesus just flipping out here? Why didn't Jesus know there would be fruit on the tree? And is it fair to curse a tree when it isn't bearing fruit when it's out of season? In other words, it wasn't meant to bear fruit. So there are so many questions that come up with, or that I come up with when I think about what happens in this verse. So like all things in the Bible, the key to understanding this passage comes from researching the context in which it happens, looking at what else the Bible has to say about this. Because through research, we can get understanding. Now, you see what I did there? That's clever, right? So the first place to look for me is the disciples. What did they think about this idea of Jesus cursing the fig tree? Well, they understood one key thing that probably 99% of us in the modern West don't know, and that is the importance of the fig tree as it relates to the nation of Israel at the time the scriptures were written. They understood how the fig tree was often used in the Old Testament to symbolically represent Israel. Okay. And another thing that we have to bear in mind is what happened the day before. And in some respects, what's going to happen a little bit later, which is what Jack is hopefully going to cover next week. Right? Now, if you didn't see last week's live stream where John Harding talked about the preceding event, which is called the Triumphal Entry, then you can catch up with that online, and I'll put a little link somewhere up here if you're watching on YouTube. Jesus has entered Jerusalem, right? So in a nutshell, this is what happens. Jesus enters Jerusalem with great fanfare and celebration going on. But next week, Jesus will effectively denounce Israel's worship of God. Sorry, I should have given a spoiler alert there. In other words, Israel is given the appearance of worshiping God and being fruitful with all the fanfare as he enters. But next week, we're going to find out they really weren't. Just like this fig tree. Remember, the fig tree represents Israel. And the disciples knew it. It was Jesus, in effect, calling out people who profess to know God, but then don't live lives corresponding to that belief. Now, we've all met these kinds of people. We even have a word we use to describe them. Hypocrites. How can someone call themselves a Christian and yet fleece people of all their money? How can someone claim to love God yet speak nothing but anger and bitterness all day? You see, the two things don't match up, do they? And that is the lesson of the fig tree, why Jesus cursed the fig tree. Now, I wouldn't have known this without spending the time to research what was happening, right? And to understand, to get that understanding. So how to lead idea number 3, research. But this lesson of the fig tree also leads us nicely into the next idea of transformational leadership. So how to lead idea number 4, motivational speech. Oh yes. Now, what do you think about when you hear this phrase, motivational speech? Now, in my mind, I see a motivational speaker. I see a guy pacing up and down the stage, bellowing out all kinds of cliched sayings as he sweats through his expensive Armani suit. I see the audience getting hyped up. But what I don't see is real, lasting, transformational change. So when I talk about motivational speech, I'm not talking about hyping you up or hyping the team up. I'm not talking about, the dream big and your life will magically become that and more lie that is so often sold in, from motivational speakers. We've all heard it, right? But maybe, just maybe, they've made us feel good, excited and pumped up, but that's all it is. So if we take the hype out of it, what are we left with? Well, something really quite simple, I think. Motivational speech inspires transformational change. Motivational speech inspires transformational speech. Okay? So what really motivates people? Truth. Motivational speech is about making sure that your speech, what you say, is true and making sure your character is in line with what you say. Okay, so make sure that what you say and your character are consistent with each other. So this, for me, is so important, right? If we want to be transformational leaders. Let's think about it just for a second, right? Think about people that don't meet this criteria. People who are full of hot air, people that say one thing and then do another, people who we call hypocrites. It's not hard to think of people like that, right? You've all got a picture of them in your head. And I'm the first to admit the church is full of them. We all know it to be true. But then so is every other religion, and so is atheism. So that's not really an excuse for the church, but the world is full of people like this. The political world especially is rife with broken promises coupled with inconsistent actions despite what they say in their motivational speech to get my vote, right? Saying is one thing, delivering is another. Now, if our words and our character are inconsistent, as was the case with the Israelites at the time of Jesus, and as is the case with a lot of Christians, then inconsistency will cause what you do to eventually wither and die from the roots, just like our fig tree, okay? Now, sure, for a season, it can have the appearance of being good, just like our fig tree. But eventually it will eat itself up. And that is the lesson of Jesus cursing the fig tree. I hope you're following me so far. So let me ask you a few questions. What is your character like? Now, if you want to know what your character is like, my top tip is to ask people that have known you for a long time, and ask people that especially have walked through the fire with you a little bit, through the difficult times, because it's when we're in those hard and difficult places that our character really shines through. Now, it says in Matthew's Gospel, chapter 13, verses 20, and again, I'm reading from the Message, it says this: "The seed cast in the gravel, this is the person who hears and instantly responds with enthusiasm." You know these people? This is the guy that's gone to the motivational speaker. They instantly respond with enthusiasm, but there is no soil of character. And so when the emotions wear off and some difficulty arrives, there is nothing to show for it. I mean, how awesome is that? How truth-bearing is that? You see, your character is your long-term investment. It's your retirement plan. It's your pension. It's your savings account. You get what I mean, right? So transformational leadership requires you to be a motivational speaker, to make sure your speech and your character are consistent with each other. And this is the idea of motivational speech, right? And it's important. But for now, what I want to do is put a little pin in this, as we're going to pick it up again in 2 weeks' time, as we will, in effect, have part 2 of this story, Fig Tree, the sequel, if you like. Oh, yes. So we're going to end this one here. Jack's going to be talking next week, a little intermission, and then, like I say, we've got part 2. So let's close with a quick recap. We started off with the idea that you are a leader, And more specifically, you are a transformational leader. As John talked about last week, someone called by God to extend God's kingdom to bring about positive change in this world. Now, the world needs you to lead right where you are at. So crack on with it, is my plea. We then looked at this passage with a fig tree and saw 4 ideas that help us become better leaders. Do you remember what they are? Number 1, find your central perks. Remember, it is hard to lead on empty, so we need a place with friends that can support us. Number 2, remember that it is okay to be human. We don't need to be superhuman or something that we're not. Yes, we are going to mess it up. So remember that scripture in the book of Hebrews tells us that Jesus has been through weakness and testing. He's experienced it all but the sin. So let's walk right up to him and get what he is so ready to give. Let's take the mercy and accept the help. Number 3 was research. Research leads to understanding, and understanding is essential for transformational leadership. And number 4, master motivational speech. Motivational speech is making sure that your speech, what you say, is true, and making sure that your character is in line with what you say. Make sure that what you say and your character are consistent with each other. Hopefully the repetition will make that sink in. Hey, listen, I would absolutely love to know what your biggest takeaway from this message is. Write it in the comments below this video. It'll be great to hear from you. And you know what else? I think you are more likely to remember that takeaway if you write it down. So put it in the comments or write it in your journal, but definitely do write it down. Now, God bless you. I pray for you that God would help you become a better leader, that you would help bring about positive change in this world, help build his kingdom, and live your best life. Okay, well, that was me here talking about transformational leadership. I really enjoyed that talk, so I hope you got a lot out of it. I know I certainly did in prepping it. So, and I'm looking forward to part 2. Did you like my little graphic there, the fig tree, the sequel graphic? Oh yes. So we have got part 2 coming in 2 weeks, which I mentioned in the video, which I'm super excited about. So what we are going to do now, because there's a lot there, I've put some stuff in the comments just summarizing the main points so you can go through those. What I'd love for you to do, like I say, is just write down in the comments or in your journal or wherever you write stuff down what your biggest takeaways are. What is God saying to you if you're a Christian, right? And if you're not a Christian here, what do you feel challenged about? What did you learn about Jesus that maybe you didn't know? Always a good question to ask. Now, we are going to go into a quick time of worship now. Again, John and Grace, we're going to play the song they did for us called Graves to Gardens. And it's about this guy who kind of figures he has the world, but realizes actually he has nothing. And so sort of turns to God and sort of finds that only he can fill that sort of God-shaped hole, to quote the famous quote. Now, I thought this would be a really apt song, given that we've talked about leadership, because you know what? When we are leaders, when we do lead and step up and lead, often that can bring success. And success, well, that can be its own challenge, can't it? And we can feel like we've actually achieved success, but we've not really achieved anything of any significance. And that's always the challenge, especially when you lay it against how Christ sort of compels us to live, which I always find quite fascinating. So we're going to go through this time of worship. What is God saying to you? What are your biggest takeaways? What have you learned about Jesus? Write that down, and then I'll be back in a few minutes to sort of wrap it all up. If this is your first time with us and you're not sort of used to the Christian worship, that's fine. Or you can't sing along, that's fine. Don't feel like you have to. Just let the music minister to you. You can listen to it in silence, but just think about the talk. What did you get out of it? Think about the words in the worship, and I'll be back in just a little bit.
I searched the world, but it couldn't fill me. Man's empty praise and treasures that fade are never enough. Then you came along and put me back together. And every desire is now satisfied here in your love. Oh, there's nothing better than you. There's nothing better than you, Lord. There's nothing, nothing is better than you. I'm not afraid to show you my weakness, my failures and flaws. Lord, you've seen them all, and you still call me friend. 'Cause the God of the mountain is the God of the valley. There's not a place your mercy and grace won't find me again. Oh, there's nothing better than you. There's nothing better than you, Lord. There's nothing, nothing is better than you. Oh, there's nothing better than you. There's nothing better than you, Lord. There's nothing, nothing is better than you. You turn mourning to dancing. You give beauty for ashes. You turn shame into glory. You're the only one who can. You turn graves into gardens. You turn bones into armies. You turn seas into highways. You're the only one who can. You're the only one who can. Oh, there's nothing better than you. There's nothing better than you, Lord. There's nothing, nothing is better than you. Oh, there's nothing better than you. There's nothing better than you, Lord. There's nothing, nothing is better than you.
Well, amen and amen to that. So, love that song. There's nothing, Lord, better than you. And that's very, very true. It's true, has been my experience for a number of years as a Christian. So thanks again, John Anna Grace, for doing that. Love, love, love the tracks that you give us. They are awesome. Okay, so a few of you have written stuff in the comments, which is great. Matt has put here, I love that we are all leaders in some way or another, which is very, very true, Matt. We are all called to lead in something. We can all make a difference, right? And I really like that. And being aware of that, I think, is super critical, because it's so easy, I think, especially in the modern world, just to sit and complain. It's easier to complain than it is to do something about it. And, I like the fact that so many people have gone, no, I'm going to do something about this, to lead, to make a difference, which is good, and not just sit and complain. What did Sharon put here? It's hard to lead on empty. That reminds me of John 15, where Jesus says, I am the true vine and my Father is the gardener. No branch can bear fruit by itself. It must remain in the vine. That's right. Neither can you bear fruit unless you remain in me. What a great scripture that is. And it is hard to lead on empty. And that, again, I think has been one of the things that people have discovered during COVID, that actually they are quite empty. As we come out of it, how do you feel? Do you feel empty? And you know what? A few weeks ago, I just felt, I don't know if I felt empty, but I did feel exhausted. And maybe it's the same thing, I don't know. But I definitely needed to take a few weeks off. And I've come to the end of those few weeks and I feel much better. I feel much more recharged, which I'm very grateful for. Thank you, Lord, because it's very hard to lead on empty and to do that well. And as Sharon said, it's true. I am the true vine, my Father is the gardener, no branch can bear fruit by itself. And this is one of the really cool things for me. I put here in the things that I love how I lead in his strength. And that's so true. There is a grace that he gives us, a strength that he gives us, and an ability that he gives us to do all of this stuff that he's told us to do. And I just absolutely love that. Love that Jesus made me for a purpose, to excel in my field, writes Matt, but not to be disheartened when setbacks arise with my progress. Very, very true, Matt. Very, very true. He has definitely made us for a purpose. He's definitely got a plan for us, and to lead in that plan and to just keep going for it and not be disheartened when setbacks arise with my progress. So that's all great stuff. What about you? What did God say to you? So thanks for those of you who have shared. Really great to see. Now, let's bring on the catch-up video, shall we? Let's see what people have been up to this week.
Hello and welcome to this week's Sunday catch-up. For those of you who don't know me, allow me to introduce myself. My name is Josh Edmondson and I am a fresher / second year, it's a bit weird, here at the University of St Andrews. For those of you who have not watched the stream before, this is that part of the stream where we get to look at videos sent in from the community that they've taken during the week, so we just get a bit of a feel for what each other have been up to. This week was my first proper week of lectures here at university and it was all good fun. It's just nice to have something to do again, to be totally honest. Lots of time spent doing maths, doing physics. Favourite question of the week, I had to try and calculate the optimal angle for pulling a sled. Yup, as a physicist, you might expect that I get up to all sorts of crazy things like, trying to solve and unravel the mysteries of the universe, but no, we're trying to optimise sled pulling. Probably the most exciting thing I got up to this week actually was I decided to experiment a little bit with some baking. As you do, don't ask me why, I just did. And I thought, you know what, making croissants looks like a really, really good idea. So I did. Here we go. Oh yeah. Oh, look at that. You know what, they actually turned out pretty well. I was very impressed. Pretty tasty, actually. Could have done with rising a bit more in the centre, but for a first attempt, definitely not half bad. Now, I guess the ultimate question then is do I stick with just working on croissants or do I go to pain au chocolat? Because they're very, very similar, just one has chocolate, one doesn't. What do you think? Let me know in the comments. What would you go for if I put a freshly baked croissant in front of you or a freshly baked pain au chocolat in front of you? Which one would you go for? Anyway, that's enough from me. Let's get to the catch-up videos.
So, a little catch-up video. We are in the basement of my house, and as you can see, I have been doing, oh yes, my basement workshop, and this week I managed to get this done. That's right, I've built a workbench. Ignore the mess underneath it. So I've got my workbench built. I've put my little miter saw station in, got my drill all set up. So I built this morning. Well, I've built it over the last few days, not just this morning. Took some time off work to finish it off. So now I've just got to tidy the place up because it is a piggin' mess. So if you watched last week's catch-up, you'll know that my amazing wife painted the room in which I'm now stood, the little man cave that we have. And so this week, as part of the catch-up, look, we've also finished it off. Oh yes, got ourselves a nice little study corner. It's amazing.
So I'm just here editing today's catch-up video, and I just have to compliment the new cave. It looks amazing, and I really love the chair. Well done, Mum and Dad. Well done. Great, thanks so much for sending all those in. Really love watching your videos, seeing what you've been getting up to. If you do want to send in your videos to be featured on Catch Up, then please send them to the WhatsApp number that you will have seen throughout the service. I love watching your videos and I love sharing them. I'm sure everyone else loves watching them as well. So please send me those videos. Doesn't have to be of you doing anything super exciting. Can be of you doing something super mundane, like, gosh, tell you what, the hardest part of these sessions every week is thinking up of something super mundane, ironing. Even if it's something super mundane like ironing, you can send it in. Great, thank you very much for watching. I hope you enjoyed the rest of the stream, and I will see you next week.
There you go. Always love the catch-up video. Thanks for doing that, Josh. Always fun to see what you were up to. Well, to see what we're up to as well. And you can see, I showed you, because I know one of the comments earlier was, how's the cave coming along? It's almost done. It's still a little bit echoey. You can hear a little bit of an echo in the sound. So I've got some sound panels, some acoustic sound panels coming, which hopefully are going to deaden it off a little bit around the microphone. But other than that, maybe the odd shelf here and there to go up, and a little bit of a light feature. I'm really stoked with it. Sharon's done a fantastic job. I've got my bookshelf there, which I pulled in from the office. Got my granddad chair, as Matt called it, which is just fantastic. So, yeah. It's good. So, as Josh said, we love to see your little catch-up videos when you do actually send them. And so it just doesn't become all about me and Sharon showing stuff every week. Do send stuff in to Josh to show what's going on. And what I'm going to do is actually take your photographs which you sent me. Hang on, let me do that. Let me show you. So these are some of the photographs that have come in. This is Jenny, who's running a little bit late because this is her view. Not bad. We've got here Sharon, who's drying up whilst watching the Sunday live stream. Awesome. And then this is my view. This is my desk with all the tech on it, which is just fab. And then what else? I love this photograph here. Josh didn't technically send me this, Josh Birch. I just saw it on Facebook and thought, you know what, such a beautiful photo of their new baby girl. Josh, a big congratulations to you and Alice for new baby Birch. So awesome. Alrighty, so I think that's all the photos done. We've done catch up. The only thing left for me to tell you about is Between Sunday. That's right. So I am going to pull up Safari. Here you go. Here's our beautiful website, which is getting a massive overhaul soon. You'll be pleased to know. But more importantly, on YouTube over here, we have our Between Sunday session. And I did an interview with John Harding about his talk last week, which you can go and check out. And if you want to know the link to that, just go to the website, scroll all the way to the bottom and just click that YouTube link there. Or sign up to our email list and we will email you the stuff out once a week. Again, you can do that on our website. It'd be great to hear from you. So I think what we're going to do now is probably end it there. I think we've covered everything. So great to see you. Thank you for joining us. For those of you who are interested, it is still 0-0 Liverpool-Chelsea. And so no one scored a goal. So no spoilers alert yet. So it is still going on, which is great. Thanks for joining us. If you've watched on the catch-up or replay, thanks for staying with it this far. But why not join us on the live stream every Sunday, 4 p.m. We are live from the UK, broadcasting the city live stream over on Facebook. So come and join us in that. Be great to see your comments and interact with you, see your photos and all that sort of stuff. Be good to get to know you. So we are going to end the service there. I am going to put in the comments again, Zoom link. There we go. So I've put in the comments the Zoom link. We are going to open up the Zoom room at approximately 5 p.m, which is in 5 minutes. So do feel free to come and join us if you want to come and say how's it or hello in there. Sharon's going to lead us in that particular section. But if not, we will see you next week. Have a fantastic week. Keep your eyes out for the Between Sunday content. And we've got Jack Mariner next week. Oh, yes, he is talking about, this sort of, if you're not familiar with it, there's this part of scripture where Jesus, again, I don't want to spoil it, but Jesus goes into a temple, gets really hacked off and starts throwing tables and all kinds of stuff all over the place. It is fascinating and it is going to be brilliant. And Jack told me this is one of his favorite portions of scripture, so we know it's going to be good. No pressure, Jack, but looking forward to seeing Jack talk next week on that. So all that's left for me to say is ta-ta, have a fab week, be blessed, stay out of trouble, and stay safe.